Hey guys, Brian here. Welcome back to the shop. I'd like to say it's nice and toasty warm in here today, but that's not exactly the case. And until I get a ceiling in here, we're still not going to do much with this insulation. It's about 10 degrees warmer than it is outside, which is a plus. So, can't complain about that. But, you'll notice the trailer is empty. So, what that means is I have gotten the insulation put up. Let's take you around and have a look, I guess. Of course, that was only the first load, so I've got to go back and get more. But this section's totally done. The rest of those down through there, most of them I've still got to go back and put the couple inches at the top to make up the 8 foot, because this is set up to be a full 8 foot underneath that mezzanine. But those pieces, they short you. They're only 47 inches, so I guess they're intended to, I don't know, standard 2x4 by 8. Maybe it's not 8 feet. I'm not sure. But however that's supposed to work out in the stud bays. Maybe fire blocks, a lot for that. But anyway, they're too short when you pack them in there. I will say, as far as when you're doing insulation with this stuff, you want to leave at least an inch overlap when you cut something out. Like this outlet, which I did when I moved this one out. I did just spin the cover and put the outlets the other way to make people happy, so that the ground's on top. So if something falls down, the ground's supposed to catch it. I don't know, I'd say anything in my shop, it falls down, it's just going to chop it all off anyway, so I don't think it'd make a lot of difference, but hey, whatever. But in order to keep from having a lot of gap around the outside, for it to pack in there nice and tight, you want to leave at least an inch. You can always go back and stick little pieces in there later. And then when I cover this all up with the plywood, it should seal that up. You got to put all the cutoffs in those cavities still, and still got to do the ends and this end. Got to buy insulation for it separate. It's on the 2 foot stud centers. It's probably what I should have done all of it on. Would have been a little easier, although it would have cost more. So cost more for studs and cost more for the insulation, so maybe I didn't mess up. But anyway, we've got some nice green walls in here. On days when it's not real windy, it makes a bigger difference on days than when it is windy. The wind has a tendency to blow it out the eave vents up there faster. I need to get my 40-foot ladder and get up there and put some plastic over them, hold the heat in. It would make a big difference. Other than that, I guess the only thing I got going on is working on paint stripping on the drill. One of the most effective paint strippers for household paint. I think this oil-based paint is probably what they paint these machine tools with in these factories where guys have just a surplus of time and they say, hey boss, let's paint this machine. So I guess what they use is just household paint, and when the temperature goes up and down, it just all cracks and falls off. So we're doing a nice job of getting the paint stripped off here. You can see all the big loose peeling sections up there where it's just curling, coming off from the expansion contraction of the metal as the temperature goes up and down out here. The boring mill is pretty much the same way. Most all the machines I've got multiple layers of paint. This machine's got at least 3 on it. I think it started off life dark gray, and then I think it got painted green, and then it got painted blue, maybe a couple other colors in between there sometime, but at least 3 anyway that I can tell. But so far, still holding together, hadn't broke back in half, so that's good. The neck hasn't fell off the trailer yet either, so that's good too. Been using that, and that's been working just fine. Well, I guess I'll try to get the rest of the insulation in here this week. I was gonna go get it today, but it pretty much rained all day, and I don't want wet, soggy insulation, so I have to wait for a day when it's not raining, which sounds like it will not be this week. But nevertheless, plan to get on that, get that in here so I can get the rest of these cavities filled in, and then I gotta make a decision about what I'm gonna do for plywood for the walls. If I'm gonna try and go off somewhere and save some money, I gotta do the math and see if it would actually save any money. You know, I've shopped around, and if you go like 150 miles from here, you save like $5 a sheet on plywood versus around here. That's one of the problems with living somewhere where people make money and they build houses, is that the materials cost more. If you go somewhere that's a dump and nobody wants to live there, the materials don't cost as much. So it's kind of the way it works. They just gouge you if they can, and if they can't gouge you, then they give you a better deal, I guess. But nevertheless, got to do the math on that and see if it pays for the time and fuel to go get it. Probably will, because of how much I'm getting. It's stupid they won't just give you the price here that you can go buy it somewhere else when it's from the same store. But Lowe's and Home Depot don't do that. They have regional pricing, and they're fixed within a region, so you gotta go out of the region to get the deals. I guess if you lived on the border, that would be a good place to live, because then you could go to whichever one was cheaper. But anyway, that's all I've got for this little update. I think maybe it's changed the acoustics in here anyway. It doesn't seem to be as echoey as it once was. But once I put the plywood all back over it, I'm sure that will come back. It's kind of good to not be as echoey, because once the machines get in here and get to running, it can use all the noise reduction it can get, so you don't wind up deaf listening to machine tools run all day. Most of my stuff's pretty quiet except for the Cincinnati. It's pretty loud, but everything else is not too bad. So that's all I've got for this. I guess I should also go over, a lot of people asked about this material and what it was. This Roxul insulation, which is rock wool. It's the same kind of stuff they use around steam pipes, or have used around steam pipes as insulation for at least 75 years probably. But that's the only place I ever see it around here. I've not ever encountered it in residential type uses or even industrial type buildings. Most buildings are not built like this building, so in most industrial buildings around here are either concrete block or steel structures, and most of the steel structures have got next to no insulation in them. They usually have like a 2-inch pad with some plastic on it that's stuck against the wall. That's the way our shop is at work, and it's terribly inefficient. It just blows all the heat outside, but people open and close the doors all day anyway and blow all the heat out. So I guess they figured since the doors were going to be open for probably half a day, it didn't really make a lot of difference about keeping the building better. But if Bailey keeps my doors open that much here, I'll be having to kick his butt. So I like to try and keep a little more of my heat in so I don't waste it all. Oh, I can't really talk right now since I've got essentially the whole roof open to the outside world. But this rock wool is fireproof and water resistant. And supposedly critters don't like to eat it. I don't know. I've heard it both ways. Some people say they don't. Some people say they love it and they make nests in it. And I guess it depends on whether they've got any place else better to nest than your insulation. If that's as good a place as there is, then they probably will. If they got better places to go, then they'll probably do that. But I keep poison around here to help deter the critters from trying to live in here. And fortunately, Bailey's smart enough that he doesn't eat any of it, but the mices do, and they disappear. So that's a good thing. Keeps it a little more, well, the main thing is keeping them out of the machines and eating the wires up, because that's about the worst thing that mice like to do, is get in and chew all your electric wires up. And that's bad, especially with something like this CNC that's got a lot of wires in it. Most of my other stuff would not be as critical, but it's got a lot of stuff. But the cabinets close up on it pretty tight, so I've not noticed any critters getting into it, and I keep it shut up so that they don't. Hopefully I'll be locating a transformer that I can make a deal on pretty soon to get it powered up, and probably real close to the same time that I get the boring mill in here and get it powered up, I'll have 2 machines that I can play with and be learning about how they work and what their intricacies are and what other stuff I have to work or fix on either one of them. The Cincinnati was in perfect working order when it was taken out of service, but it's been a couple of years and it's been sitting, so electronics, who knows? You never know what they're going to do, whether they're going to work like they're supposed to or whether they're going to decide, nah, we're not going to work anymore. Hopefully that won't be the case. Everything looks pretty robust. I mean, it's essentially a Commodore 64, which were pretty robust machines. They just didn't do much, and this is kind of the same way. You know, it's got like an equivalent to 15 personal computers on the side of it and probably has the same calculating power as a calculator. But nevertheless, it can make holes and go in straight lines and cut stuff, and that's mainly what I do with mills. I'm not going to be doing 5-axis fancy milling operations on that machine, mainly because I don't know how to code them. And if you get CAM like Fusion 360 and do CAM and really overload the controller on it, I think you can set it up to drip feed so that you could actually run large programs through it. It just has to take it a bite at a time until it gets it done. But mainly I'm not going to be running that complex in operations on it because I'm not really a complex guy. I like simple stuff. So that's hopefully covers that on the installation. A lot of people asked about why I would use something like that. And also, none of this is attached with anything. It's all just packed into the stud bays. There's no clips or screws or nothing. It's just a press fit, and therefore it's got very limited airflow that can go through the insulation. It pretty much has to go through the insulation. It can't go around it. One of the big problems with fiberglass is when you put it in the bay, it's not pressed out against the sides, so the cold air can just come around the outside of the insulation and come into your walls, which is one of the main reasons why they put plastic up, in order to keep the air from just blowing through all your insulation. But this building is not built with plastic on it, and it's not going to be built with plastic on it because I do want some air turnover in here for all the chemicals and welding gases and things that are going off in the air that are really not the best in the world to be breathing. So I want some airflow turnover inside of here, just not a whole lot. So I think I've got a good mix. Once I ever get a ceiling in here, then it should really turn out nice. And I will be putting an outdoor boiler in. Haven't decided whether I'm going to build one or buy one. Be a pretty major project to build one, but I'm not too ashamed of taking on major projects. I can do that all right. It's just a matter of how much time it takes. And you know, I got from midnight to 6 a.m. when I go back to get up to go to work. So I got all that time I can use to work on stuff, and it'd be a good time to be building something out here. And that's what I like to do, get in the shop and work. So thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, I'll catch y'all later.